Sarah Norman is a Democratic strategist and was a senior advisor for digital for Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Sarah, thank you for joining us. Will you do us a favor and weigh in on this whole idea of unity? Can we achieve unity? President Biden and Vice President Harris are calling for unity left and right. What does it mean, and can we get there?
I sure think we can. I think in order to do that, we need both parties to buy in. And what I'd like to call out is a couple of weeks ago, Mitch McConnell said that he would consider voting to convict this president, but it had to happen after President Trump already left office. And then yesterday he said, we can't impeach this president because he's already left office. And he knows that this is constitutionally correct to do, and he's not being American first. He is being Republican first. And how is that a call to unity? How is it a call to unity to say, hey, that act of terrorism that happened a couple of weeks ago, let's sweep it under the rug and blame it on the American people rather than hold accountable the leaders who spread those lies. And this really matters, not just for our future, where hopefully we still have democracy to protect, but also today. There is still a huge threat today. That is why we have thousands of our troops on our Capitol right now, because so many people still believe this lie. And it would be incredibly unifying and healing and protective of our country if Republican leaders stood up and said, no, we are going to hold this man accountable, and then we're going to move forward from it together.
So is the only way to move forward, Sarah, in your opinion, impeaching President Trump, who is former President Trump, who is now an American citizen? Rand Paul stood up this week and said, you know what, it's not maybe unconstitutional, but maybe undesirable for the Senate to impeach a former president and current U.S. citizen.
So most constitutional scholars say that this is constitutionally correct. In fact, it came from laws in Britain, and sometimes they were actually only able to impeach people after they left office. But the vast majority of constitutional scholars said this is allowed in our Constitution. But what I would say is, look, Democrats don't want to do this either, especially at a time when they just won the presidency, the House, and the Senate. But it must be done. There was an act of terrorism on our Capitol because of this big lie, and someone needs to be held accountable for it. Someone was making this up, and it had huge consequences that led to thousands of troops being there today as we speak.
Okay. But what about those who would say, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm speaking for myself or Sinclair, I'm saying what about those who would say he's not likely going to be convicted of impeachment? We saw a vote after the Rand Paul speech, and there were only 5 U.S. senators that made the switch to side with the Democrats. They would need 66 total to do that. So why proceed? Why bother with this if he's not going to get convicted?
I think that it's crucial to proceed, and it's up to the Republicans to decide whether or not they're going to join in this effort. And what really bugs me is that so many of our Republican leaders have already condemned this president, but they stop short of having him face the law. Why? I don't know if it's because they're scared of violence against them, or they're scared that they're going to get voted out their next election, but they signed up to be leaders. And now is the time to stand up and actually lead and not hide behind what they say is not allowed, when so many of professionals who actually have studied the Constitution say that, no, this is absolutely allowed.
Okay, so what does unity mean then? If that's the case, if there's a bunch of people who want to make sure that Trump is held accountable, and as you pointed out, Mitch McConnell, and you call it, and not very nice things to say about Mitch McConnell, that doesn't sound very unifying to me, though.
I totally hear you. And look, this process is ugly, but I think that we do have to go through this process to unify. Let's unify behind protecting our democracy and protecting our Constitution. The President Trump's own Justice Department and intelligence agencies said that there was no widespread fraud. And in fact, this was the safest election we've ever had. The Republican officials who oversaw this election said that there was no widespread fraud, and the Republican judges who oversaw the court cases threw them out because President Trump's team failed to provide any evidence of fraud because there was no widespread fraud. And I do think that it's important for us to reflect on that so that we can believe in our institutions again and unify together behind our democracy.
All right. You know what, Sarah? We can all agree with you, unify together. I'm of the mindset that I hope President Biden does well and the American people do well under President Biden. I'm not looking for him to fail. I'm looking for him to succeed. I want to say thank you to Sarah Norman. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.